Welcome to the deep dive. There's just so much information out there. It's easy to get lost trying to find what really matters, those key insights.
Absolutely. It's a real challenge.
And that's really why we do this show. We take a whole stack of source material, like the articles you sent over for this one, and we really try to dig in and pull out the important stuff.
Yeah, find those nuggets. And today, looking at these sources, our mission is pretty clear. Figure out what gives the Renault-Nissan alliance its edge, specifically in, well, the electric and hybrid vehicle space, which is moving so fast.
Right, electrification.
The material you've got suggests they have some pretty distinct ways of doing things, technologies, strategies. We want to unpack that and see why it matters for you.
Okay, let's get into it. So right off the bat, these sources seem to argue that Renault and Nissan aren't just, following the crowd on EVs. They've apparently got some real strengths setting them apart.
Exactly. And what's interesting, according to the material, is how these strengths really come from that long-standing alliance they have.
Ah, the alliance itself?
Yeah. It's let them cook up their own tech, specific product plans, and ways to work together. Synergies. The sources suggest that's giving them a leg up.
So where do the sources suggest we start? Where's the core of this advantage?
Well, the materials really zoom in on Nissan first, and specifically this technology they call a cornerstone. The third-generation e-power system.
E-power, okay. I've heard that name, but the way the sources explain it, it sounds, well, different from your typical hybrid.
It is quite different. Think about most hybrids, the gas engine often helps turn the wheels,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're going faster.
Yeah, sure. Kicks in on the highway or whatever.
Right. But with Nissan's e-power, the sources stress this. The internal combustion engine never directly powers the wheels. Never. Its only job, generating electricity.
Oh, okay. So it's basically a power plant under the hood,
Pretty much. It makes the electricity.
which then powers an electric motor.
Exactly. And that motor is the only thing that turns the wheels. All the time. And the really crucial part, the sources emphasize this strongly, is that you don't plug it in. No charging stations needed.
Wait, really?
Yep. You just fill it up with gasoline, like any normal car. But because the electric motor is always driving you, you get that smooth, instant torque, that EV-like driving feel.
Wow. So electric car feel, but just pump gas. That's actually a pretty big deal, especially if you're worried about finding chargers.
It's a unique selling point for sure.
And the sources say this isn't like brand new tech for them. They've been doing this.
Oh yeah, far from new. The material mentions it's been in production almost 10 years. They sold something like over 1.6 million cars with it already.
10 years. Okay, so they've worked out the kinks, presumably.
You'd assume so.
Yep.
That's a lot of real-world miles. And this new third generation, sources say, it's got real improvements, like 15% lower fuel consumption at higher speeds.
That's significant.
Yeah, and lower emissions. Plus, it's apparently quieter, more comfortable too. Just refining it.
And we're going to see this soon, this new version.
It's like it. The sources point to Europe first in the Qashqai in 2025. Then North America gets it in the Rogue in 2026.
Qashqai and Rogue. Okay, popular models.
Exactly. And the sources actually call it a revolution in the hybrid world. Strong words. But the point is that EV-like drive without the plug. They argue very few competitors offer something quite like it with that kind of efficiency. That's a key part of Nissan's edge, according to this material.
Okay, so e-power is one big piece. But Nissan isn't only doing hybrids. The sources talk about their pure EVs too, right? Especially expanding in Europe.
Oh, absolutely. They're pushing hard on the full EV front, too. The material details quite a few new models coming up.
Like what?
Well, for 2025, there's a new micro EV, described as a bold-looking compact city car.
Micro EV, okay.
Also in 2025, a new Leaf crossover. So taking that Leaf name, they're, pioneering EV.
Right, the original mass market EV, practically.
Yeah, and putting it into that popular crossover shape, promising more range, more tech. And then in 2026, they're planning a fully electric Juke as well.
So hitting those key segments, city car, compact crossover, makes sense.
Totally. And a really important point the sources make here is about the platforms. Many of these new EVs, like the Leaf crossover and that micro EV, they'll use shared advanced platforms. CMF EV is mentioned specifically.
Ah, CMF EV, the Alliance platform.
Exactly. This is where that synergy piece really comes into play. Using these shared foundations lets them develop these different models more efficiently, maybe, as the sources imply, keep costs down a bit.
And we shouldn't forget, As the sources point out, Nissan has been doing EVs for a long time,
Yeah.
since the first Leaf in what, 2010?
A very long time in EV years. That decade plus gives them a ton of experience, real practical knowledge.
Yeah, you can't just invent that overnight.
Nope. The sources mention ongoing work on better batteries, more efficient powertrains, even things like aerodynamics and better infotainment. They mention the Google system in the new models. It all adds up.
Okay, that paints a good picture for Nissan. Unique hybrid tech, refreshing the EV lineup. How does Renault fit into this? What's their strategy, according to the sources?
Renault's angle, as the material lays it out, seems really focused on leveraging those alliance synergies we just talked about, especially the platform sharing.
Right, the platforms.
They're using things like the Ampere small platform, sometimes called Ampere Electric City, for models like that new Renault 5 E-Tech, which looks pretty cool, actually.
The electric R5, yeah. And didn't the sources say, wait, is this with a micro ties in again?
You got it. This is the really clear example of synergy the sources highlight. That Renault 5 E-Tech, it shares the exact same platform as the new Nissan Micra EV.
Ah, okay, so two different cars, different brands, different styles, but the same bones underneath.
Exactly. That saves a huge amount of money and time development,
Yeah.
lets both brands get competitive cars out faster, and potentially helps with the pricing.
And Renault's focus seems pretty specific too, based on the sources, like mostly smaller city-focused EVs.
That definitely seems to be their lane, particularly in Europe. They're
Okay.
targeting that core city car market, the compact electric space.
It makes sense for Europe.
Yeah. The Renault 5 E-Tech, the Megane E-Tech, they're highlighted as these practical, compact EVs, good for urban driving. And the sources note Renault is really aiming for competitive pricing, trying to make EVs more accessible.
And they're investing in making the bits themselves too, batteries and things.
Yes, the sources mention Renault starting up battery factories in Europe, was part of like an integrated plan for electrification.
Bringing it in-house.
Right. Control the supply chain more, aim to cut costs, maybe get better range, improve sustainability.
Yeah.
It's all connected to making those affordable urban EVs work.
Okay, so we have Nissan with e-Power and a renewed global EV range. Renault zeroing in on accessible urban EVs using these shared platforms. How does this whole picture stack up against competitors, according to the sources?
Well, this is where the sources kind of pull it all together to argue for the alliance's unique position. They say Renault and Nissan stand out because of that specific mix.
Mm-hmm.
Unique tech like e-Power.
Yep.
A pretty broad and refreshed EV lineup hitting key segments. And that really smart use of shared platforms, which helps with costs and speed.
And that e-Power thing keeps coming back as a major differentiator.
It really does. The sources position it as this unique hybrid that gives you the EV drive feel, but without needing a plug. They argue most competitors just don't have an equivalent that's as effective or efficient.
So if you compare them to, say, other big players like Stellantis or
But
the
sources make that comparison directly. They suggest that maybe Renault and Nissan are actually a bit further along when it comes to using these dedicated modular EV platforms built just for EVs from the start.
not just modifying older platforms.
Right. And also in developing these innovative hybrid approaches like e-Power.
So here's maybe the really interesting part then. You take Nissan's long, maybe painful, real-world EV experience from the Leaf.
Mm-hmm.
You add their unique non-plug-in e-Power hybrid. And then you layer in Renault's focus on affordable city EVs built on these shared, dedicated platforms. What does the combination of all that, according to the sources, really mean competitively? It feels like more than just adding up the pieces.
I think that's exactly the point the sources are making. The synergy is where the real power lies. Nissan's deep EV knowledge learned the hard way over a decade.
Yeah.
That helps inform the battery tech, the motors, everything that Renault can then use, possibly more cheaply, for their urban EVs because they share components.
Okay.
But at the same time, e-Power acts as this like bridge technology. It pulls in buyers who aren't ready for full EV charging hassles. So they're attacking the market from multiple angles.
Ah, so it's not just one strategy fits all?
Exactly. The sources imply this multi-pronged approach might be harder for competitors who are maybe all in on just one EV path or still adapting older platforms.
So the overall picture from your sources is, well, it's a distinct strategy. Build on that history, offer a unique hybrid option, and use smart platform sharing to deliver focused EVs, especially in those smaller, more accessible segments.
That's pretty much the gist the sources deliver. It's a specific way forward, maybe not the most obvious one compared to some rivals, but Potentially very effective.
Wow, okay. That was definitely a deep dive. We've really unpacked how Renault and Nissan are tackling this electric transition based on the material you shared.
Yeah, we looked at Nissan's e-Power, that unique hybrid tech, and how they're leveraging their EV history for new models.
And then Renault's strategy really focusing on those accessible city EVs, using those shared platforms so smartly.
Exactly.
So when you step back and look at these specific strategies, what does it tell you, the listener, about how different car companies are handling this massive shift to electric?
Well, I think it clearly shows there's no single right way to do it. Innovation isn't only about having the absolute longest range or the fastest charge time.
Right. It can be other things too. It can be a clever hybrid system like e-Power or really smart cross-brand platform sharing or just laser focusing on specific market segments where you think you can win, like affordable city cars.
So here's something to think about, a final thought maybe.
Yeah.
Given Renault and Nissan have this, decade plus of real-world mass-market EV experience with the Leaf
That
foundation,
foundation.
and they also developed this pretty unique e-Power tech alongside it.
Mhm.
How might that combination, that historical knowledge plus the distinct tech, shape what they do next, especially as they seem to be leaning even harder into shared platforms in these focus market segments? What does that unique blend prepare them for?